Welcome to this review of immune adaptogens. We covered some of this in class, but it's very useful to take a look in this context. Just draw your attention to the fact that the immune system is driven by cytokine communication cell to cell, as well as docking of different protein complexes between different immune cells. The humoral and cellular branches, of course, have different aspects. T cells versus B cells, antibodies versus killer T cells. What's important when we're thinking of plant or fungal compounds is that macrophages or other antigen-presenting cells can take in these molecules, like a fungal cell wall component, present it on the surface, and this fires up immune activity in a broader sense. Or these fungal compounds or plant compounds can bind directly to various white blood cells. As well, macrophages and other antigen-presenting cells can release cytokines that cause changes. Usually it's upregulation, although maitake mushroom, for instance, causes both up and down regulating cytokines to be released. On balance, there's more upregulation happening. So this is important to know. Will taking a plant or a fungal component give your immune system specificity or memory that it didn't have before? No. That would be nice, but this is only accentuating what the immune system is already capable of. So it doesn't lead to immunologic learning. So some of the problems that we see are acquired, like HIV infection, or genetic, like subtotal or total IgA deficiency, or it could be circumstantial, nutritional, drug-induced, disease-induced, cancer being an example, or toxin-induced. So botanical therapies can help us with one of three things, typically. Augment cellular and humoral immunity, so accentuate that process that the body has already set in motion. Maybe support related organs of the immune system like lymphatics or the spleen, or provide supplemental support through additional antimicrobial, antiviral, antiparasitic action. So killing off a bit of whatever the body is already fighting. So here's some examples. Cordyceps sinensis, or caterpillar fungus. It does increase stamina, and it's high in these beta-glucan molecules. And it's these beta-glucan molecules that we see being uptaken by macrophages. So this is one good example. Mushrooms in general can have some anti-cancer potential, and we'll talk more about that in just a moment. Corialis versicolor is used a lot in as adjuvant therapy for people with cancer. It has these beta-D-glucans, and the hot water extraction, which was also what was used traditionally in Chinese medicine, is a preferred form, or an encapsulation that already did some extraction for you. The smaller components of the polysaccharides pass through the gut wall quite readily. I think that kind of depends on some processing, some heating to break them down a bit into fragments. And there's receptors for these molecules on many white blood cells. So a little bit of research on different types of cancer here, again, as adjuvant therapy. Maitake is a great mushroom extract, Gryphola frondosa, scientific name, to think about as adjuvant for your cancer patients. So it does increase natural killer cell activity, T cell numbers, and interleukin-1, and there's some specific fractions you can get. So here's some of the mushroom extracts we use in immune boosting. This guy here in the middle is actually not so much for immune boosting, but a psychedelic agent, psilocybin, which people take as a psychedelic or hallucinogenic agent. So this would be the one that, I guess, is different than the rest here. Ganoderma lucidum, or reishi mushroom, has polysaccharides, but also triterpenes, and it improves glucose tolerance, anti-inflammatory effects, and hepatoprotection, in addition to immune boosting. So this would be a great mushroom extract for our diabetics and metabolic syndrome patients. Getting back to the idea of chemo prevention, so cancer prevention. We looked in class this week, so week 12, as to how chemo prevention works. And from the initiation of a mutation that can lead to cancer to promotion of this process or transformation in this model, so the cells becoming more dysplastic, eventually becoming neoplastic cells which proliferate and get diagnosed as a clinical cancer. There are actions that can interfere with this. Antioxidants might protect against the initial mutation. DNA repair, apoptosis for cells that are already too far gone. And if they do begin to proliferate, hopefully natural killer cells find them and pick them off. It probably happens throughout our lifetime. Unfortunately, a few get through. So these anti-cancer compounds are important. Mushrooms do make an important part of chemo prevention. So we know that maitake can, in this combination with ashwagandha, maitake extracts helped restore some immune function. In this study, diffraction helped activate natural killer cells, which are important for immune surveillance. You'll notice Japanese study, and maitake diffraction is used in Japanese oncology. Lentinula edodes, or shiitake, it's a very tasty mushroom people use in soups and salads and stir fries. The polysaccharide extract you'll see as a dietary supplement, this LEM, and it can restore immunity. In this study, they were taking a small group of breast cancer patients, getting some very hard-hitting drugs like cyclophosphamide. And although the mushroom extract didn't completely stop all damage to their hematology and immune function, it did stop the progression. So in the second course of treatment, the white blood cells and lymphocytes did not decrease any further. Host quality of life was maintained. Cytotoxic activities of NK cells, for instance, were maintained. So this is important for people going through this kind of treatment. You've certainly seen astragalus before, and it does seem to bind, its components bind with many cells of the immune system. It's good for chronic immune deficiency and for people going through radiation, chemotherapy, recurring lung infections, for instance, COPD, fatigue, chronic hepatitis. It's a safe herb, generally. Now, Hydrastis canadensis, or golden seal, has lots of these isoquinoline alkaloids, such as berberine and hydrastine. The thing I want to bring to your attention here is that it's probably more effective for mucous membrane infections. It has been studied in vitro. Berberine and hydrastine can suppress a lot of the organisms that you see here. But remember that this is in vitro. There's really high concentrations that the researchers were using. Taking it orally doesn't mean that the blood level, the serum level of hydrastine is going to get to the levels that it's going to suppress all of these guys here. So I'd say particularly for mucous membrane type infections, it may increase macrophage activity and even blood supply to the spleen, possibly. Here's a list of some drugs that interact with Hydrastis, and remember, do not use in pregnancy. Now, echinacea you're very familiar with. The thing I want to bring your attention to here is that there's different species, and Angustifolia, pallida, purpurea. The purpurea species is the highest in alkylamines, which have been found to be the most important aspect. They really increase that macrophage activity and then all the results of that, such as more cytokine release. Most of the products that you'll find at a health food store are standardized to echinicides, and that's fine. These are effective as well. They do bind to white blood cells. Actually, a product that has all of these, so for instance, an echinacea blend that has all three of these species But it's nice to have purpurea included because you're getting a good dose of those alkylamides. So we know there's increased immune action. Remember that the eclectics used echinacea for recurring or chronic infections. So this idea of using echinacea just for the cold is more of a more contemporary marketing phenomenon. Echinacea is a good long-term immune tonic. Is it safe for people with autoimmune conditions or post-transplant? No one really knows. Probably not a great idea to get Th1 or Th2 really fired up, especially after transplant or during a flare-up of autoimmune disease. We don't know if it's safe in pregnancy. There's some research that indicates it's probably fine, but if you want to really play it safe, stick with vitamin C. Other uses are listed here. So a blend including roots of purpurea might be a really good idea. There are products such as MediHerb's echinacea that give you a guaranteed potency of alkylamides. Lomatium dissectum comes from the Southwest. It has resins, saponins, volatile oils, triterpenes. And here's the echinacea product, a little bit out of place here, but here's an example of a really potent echinacea product that might be great for someone with a chronic condition. So getting back to lomatium, it is good against viral, bacterial, fungal infections. It's immunostimulatory. The thing to keep in mind is that it has these resins in it, and it can cause a measles-like rash, and also photosensitization. So as far as avoiding any kind of rash reaction, a resin-free lomatium isolate, I believe, is still on the market. It's quite more expensive, but that is an option for people as well. Finally, Phytolacca americana, or poke root, is a really vigorously growing plant. It makes these purplish berries that are very toxic. It's enticing to toddlers. These are from my backyard and got to be about 4.5 feet high in just a couple weeks. These guys I think I took down after taking the picture, but I've had others come up to about 5 feet high. It seems almost overnight. The plant is used as a mitogen, and there's actually a compound poke root mitogen which is used in immunologic research. As you can see, it contains several different classifications of molecules and lectins. It will really fire up white blood cells. There's these alkaloids as well, these antiviral proteins, histamines. A couple of things you got to watch out for with pokeweed. It is a purgative. It will make people very, very sick to their stomach. It is also absolutely contraindicated in pregnancy, so there is no use for this in pregnancy. It's a lymphatic, an antiviral, emetic, purgative, and laxative. You could use it as a very drastic immune stimulation as well as lymphatic, but keep the dose to about 1 ml. So 10 drops, 12 drops. Don't let the patient take more until you see how they tolerate it, and definitely keep it away from children. I've also found that patients that are very sick from chemotherapy need to go on a really low dose of this, or just try something else, like astragalus, which is easy to tolerate. It can be useful, but you really have to respect it because it can be toxic. And the berries have caused fatalities in children. We know this about poke root. So just treat it with respect. And again, contraindicated in pregnancy. I always wear gloves when I pull it out of our backyard or dig it out. That brings us to the end of this review. Thanks for watching.